Another place you can visit after you're done here is Bailey's Cafe. Now, they're in Bed-Stuy. It's a nonprofit with, quote, a focus on community building, service, and the arts. The folks there have collaborated with the Black Veterans for Social Justice and the artist, educator, and author Mo Beasley to create a multidisciplinary performance piece called As Quiet as It's Kept.
It deals with the experiences of black men serving in the military. And here to tell us more is the man, shall we say, the commanding officer in charge of the production, Mo Beasley himself. Welcome to BK Live.
I like that.
You like the commanding officer?
Now all the vets at Black, all the black vets and bandits were like, really? Oh, you the commander? Get me in trouble, right?
We do apologize, but so far as this conversation, as quiet as it's kept, is concerned, you are the commander-in-chief, okay?
Yes.
Now, first and foremost, not before we even get into what it is, but why the name? As quiet as it's kept. Is this something you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Just sort of sing from the mountaintops, as quiet as it's kept?
Yes, it comes from the lead vet at Black Vets for Social Justice, a brother named Herbert Sweat. So Herbert Sweat, he invited Bailey's Cafe and me to come and sit with the veterans for a whole summer in 2015. Yeah. So every Thursday for 3-4 hours, we would bring a group of teenage brothers from Bed-Stuy and would sit with them and talk about the rites of passage and that they experienced as men in the military, especially in Vietnam, Korea, and then some of the younger vets were in Afghanistan and Iraq. Right. And so they talked to them about their journey as men of color. And these are Latin, Hispanic and Black, African American, Caribbean vets who talked about their stories that are not told. And Sweat has this saying, quiet as it's kept. You know, like he would do almost every set. It was just like he would be like, "Quiet as it's kept." You know, like Henry Johnson. Right. You don't know the story of Henry Johnson. Henry Johnson was a soldier in World War I who saved an entire company of soldiers as he was on watch one night, and a German platoon was showing up to sneak attack them and kill them. And he literally single-handedly, like Wolverine on a rampage, with his rifle, unloaded his rifle, unloaded his gun, took his rifle, beat down, the enemy until it broke into pieces, then took his baton and stabbed them, and they shot him up, and he killed the whole platoon, saved them. Wow. And to this day, and no one knows this story, quiet as it's kept. Yeah. Henry Johnson saved a whole company of his old company of soldiers, but no one knows that story. And he hasn't gotten the Congressional Medal of Honor because he's a man of color, because he was a black man in World War I. And so every president since World War I has refused to give Henry Johnson Congressional Medal of Honor. And I just happen to be up in Albany where he's from, and they have a whole tribute in Albany to Henry Johnson. And so they tell me that he's finally gotten a Congressional Medal of Honor, but I got to do some homework on that.
Well, quiet as it's kept.
Quiet as it's kept.
They kept it quiet.
They still kept it quiet, right? Like, so even if it happened, like it would have happened on Barack Obama's watch, President Obama's watch, and we still don't know about it, quiet as it's kept. So that's the long story of where the title comes from. That's Sweat's phrase, quiet as it's kept. Black vets have been doing all this ever since the American Revolution. They have been fighting for freedom.
As quiet as it's kept, though, it's not any secret to anybody sitting in those chairs, and they're passing on to a different generation. I want to know about process from the invite to the conversation to now you're just blowing it up, bringing it to a mass audience.
Yes. So the process was that the founder of Bailey's Cafe is Stephanie Siegel. Stephanie Siegel was a veteran in the Department of Education at Paul Robeson High School. I was a teaching artist through the Brooklyn BAM's education department. I was teaching spoken word poetry there for 2 years with her. She and I bonded as partners in teaching young people, and she was very attuned to teaching these young people of color their history through poetry and spoken word. And so she had already founded Bailey's Cafe, and she was running that part-time, and when she retired, she went full tilt. So during that time, she had heard my poetry in black male development, redefinition, black male healing is a major part of what I do as a poet and as a storyteller. And in that also comes my father's story as a vet. And so I was sharing with the young people my father's journey as a vet, and my poem, I Want My Daddy's Records Back. Because my daddy was a Vietnam vet, and not until I buried him in 2009 did I find out that we had lost my father when he came back home from Vietnam. Didn't know that he was ill with post-traumatic stress syndrome from the war until he died, until we buried him in 2009. Yeah. And so I wrote poetry about that because I was like, I want my daddy's records back. My daddy was a huge music fan. He had a record collection that would fill this room. And he used to tell me, boy, when I die, this is your legacy. Like this, original Sam Cooke, last poets, Yellow Man, Bob Marley, like all that stuff that, I know why I became a poet, because he was dropping it on me back in the day as a kid. I can't find those records to this day, literally, when he died, And so because of the post-traumatic stress syndrome, I found him in the desert in San Bernardino, California, after being off the grid for 8 years. And I literally tracked him down in the desert in San Bernardino, California. And all that lost, all that history lost, all that identity lost. And fortunately, it was a year and a half before he passed. And so I wrote, I had to purge that emotion. So I'm in class with Stephanie Siegel and her students, young men and women, talking about, our daddy's records and how we need to claim their history and their story. And she started the relationship with Black Vets for Social Justice and their rites of passage, because Bailey's Cafe's mission is to bridge the gap in intergenerational bridge building. And so so they bring the community together, the elders and the youth, so that we can pass on knowledge, legacy, information, truth. Quiet as it's kept is all this wonderful legacy that is living in Bed-Stuy alone. And so so it was just a given when she retired from the Department of Education, and she just came to me and said, Mo,
you got to do it.
She was like, she asked me to be the artist in residence for this project. And became, especially because I have a personal connection to this story. So I took that story to the vets in Bed-Stuy, and they've taken me in like a son.
They're a great organization.
And
do the work.
So you're engaging the community around this notion of how military affects men, but what is in short, what is the brief history of Black and brown people in terms of the American military?
Is there a through line that you see too from the stories, like whether it's when we traded jungles for deserts, but it's still the service, like is there a through line?
Oh my God, yes. There's a young vet who served in Afghanistan, who taught a Dominican and Black, and talked about like his record, like if you look at his paperwork, he is a super soldier. Like top of the line, top scores and everything, weapons, infiltration, physical fitness, intellect, intelligence, intelligence gathering. Like he's an exceptional soldier. It's all on paper. Showed us his record. But when he got to the desert, he kept getting put on the back of the bus in terms of his company. Like never getting on the 50 cal, he would say. Like I'm equipped to be on the 50 cal. Like I am a professional soldier. I am a warrior by nature. He's like, my call is to be a warrior, but they keep giving me like
KP duty.
KP duty, kitchen duty. And it's just like, and how do you do that? How you have a warrior, like everything on this paper says this is a warrior. And you don't put him on the front lines. A warrior that says, I want to be on the front lines. I'm not afraid. I want to be out there in it. And they're still like, no, because if I give you the 50 cal, then I got to pay you 50 cal money. I got to give you 50 cal status. I've got to give you full acknowledgement of your manhood. And this is a soldier we're talking about in, the 2000s. This is not a soldier in 1776. This is a soldier in 2008, still not being able to be fully recognized as a man. So quiet as it's kept, we're still getting put on the back of the bus in the military. And so that's, so this project, one of the major goals is for that quietness to be nullified, and to that end, we have a great director who's been brought on the project, a sister named Monica Williams, who is I'm in charge of performance, the storytelling.
Right.
Monica is a great theater director, has also developed a community conversation, so that this is not just a piece of performance, but literally she's leading it so that the conversation can have this dialogue, understand the complexity, the depth of this journey of Black veterans and how it's morphed. Because, we met with male men for the summer of 2015. Once a woman soldier came in and talked to us about her journey. And so so that's a whole nother
Listen, I just saw Hidden Figures. I know that you should too.
Right,
but
all of
this
us.
thing, like if the men's experience, I can imagine what women bring to that as a woman of color serving in the United States military.
And especially in Brooklyn. You know, it has changed over the last 40 to 50 years, but the fact of the matter is that during World War II specifically, the Brooklyn Navy Yard was, you know what I'm saying, just instrumental to the war. And so Brooklynites have always answered that call to service.
Right, and so I was just talking to Monica Williams last night about the project and her direction, this community conversation, and she's making it Bed-Stuy specific because we could go national with this, we could, and she's like, no, we're going to start with all that history that's in Bed-Stuy that no one knows about. Right now you think the Brooklyn Navy Yard is just a television studio.
Exactly.
Like, no.
What will people experience when people come down to see as quiet as it's kept? You know, what is it that they're should walk away with, and what is it that they're gonna see?
Yeah, put us in the seat.
Oh, babe, I call it spoken word theater in concert. So what you're gonna see is my poetry, the music, the live music of Michael Hill and Michael Hill's Blues Mob. So Michael Hill is an amazing blues composer, musician that's been grinding blues in New York City.
Mob.
You know, the blues mob. And, you know, and what's for me, and the blues is so, what they're gonna see is music, live music, poetry, images, video clips of real stories, because we videotape those conversations with black vets. And so, you know, you tell stories about one vet having medicine pushed on him for his PTSD, and him pocketing the medicine and using Tai Chi and yoga to heal him of his PTSD. And the doctors, you know, the doctor's trying to push this on him to like string him out. And he's like, we're not doing that.
So now you're talking about the 70s, the 80s, and that's a whole nother conversation. You have to come back and talk about that aspect as well, because it's not only about you know, black vets, but we're talking about their families, and that's such a personal thing as to even what sort of drew you to this story was your connection to your father. So once again, it's not even necessarily just about the individual, but it's about our families.
And my first paper in college at Howard University was what happened to the civil rights movement. Because my dad was an absentee father because he was 25 years in the military. I saw him 30 days out of the year. And so I was yearning for that connection with him on a deeper level. Until I graduated high school, I didn't live under the same roof with my father until I was 19. And literally, we would sit up all night, days, and he would just be like, I'm trying to dump so much information in your head. So when you go out in the world, man, like you're ready. All the stuff that he couldn't give me because he was in service. And so there's a level of, and so my first paper was about what happened to the civil rights movement, because it said we made all these strides. But I grew up in the projects in Boston. And so didn't nothing happen new for poor black folks. And so I've discovered the hard way that this was a middle class experience in the civil rights movement. And so my daddy was a part of the Black Power movement as a soldier in the military and what that was about. And so, and so uncovering his journey out of just a young boy, a son's desire to know his father more is what it came out of. And so from that, all this other stuff, you know, came out. Like my father told me that in Vietnam, he enlisted. He wasn't drafted. He enlisted in the Air Force because he said that they were fighting for freedom in Southeast Asia. So when he showed up there fighting for freedom, what he saw was Cargill, Sealand Trucking, Exxon, making money, doing business for whomever would pay. Communist or capitalist, the same. And so he was totally disenfranchised. He was a 17-year-old boy from Boston, Massachusetts, just totally demystified about unromanticized about what it meant to be a soldier in the military and Vietnam. And then so you hear, that was my daddy's story, but then when I do the research and I read Wallace Terry's Bloods, you get 20 stories about black vets and what they went through, and you go, whoa, this is huge.
Those stories about those black vets, exactly.
Tell us when because we have to get out, tell us where and when we can see. Bailey's Cafe?
Yes, so Bailey's Cafe, Veterans Day 2017, Bailey's Cafe is going to be Monica Williams and Stephanie Siegel will be holding the community conversation, Quiet as It's Kept. The performance, the live concert with me and Michael Hill will be at BAM Fishman space in spring of 2018.
Now they're throwing the website up, so we have to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to go check the show out, man. As Quiet as It's Kept. I got to support my brother.